Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's wrestling. There's a pay-per-view coming up. The Getting Over boys have got you covered. You do not need to worry about that. They have you covered. Talk about what happened in the predictions last week, but don't focus on that, it's not important. And then we predict Hell in a Cell. That's right. Hell in a Cell. Predictions. They're coming your way. Getting Over crew's got you covered. And, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you're one of our lovely YouTube subscribers. If you're not checking us out on YouTube, jump over there, have a little look. And if you could click the subscribe button, it'd be a big help to the channel, to us, and ultimately to you, because we pay it back. So here we go. This is CookieCast Getting Over.
Hello, welcome along everyone. It is time for Getting Over, number 24, if you're keeping score. As always, we're all here. Mr. Matthew Moore, Mr. Paul Williams, and CookieCast gaffer in extraordinaire, Mr. Andy Cook.
Hello.
Surely for this podcast, he'd be the general manager, wouldn't he?
No, but you can actually, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see his face. He's not just a laptop. So,
good point.
So yeah, if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to press subscribe while you're there, because we like a bit of that. So yeah, it's that time. It's pay-per-view weekend this weekend, and shameless self-promotion in a weird kind of way. They've nicely dropped a pay-per-view on my actual birthday, so quite pleased about that one. Not that it'll mean that I'll be any better at predictions, as we shall do. For those of you that follow the predictions title, you will know that Paul absolutely shithoused his way to a countdown victory last time out. And this time, could he actually put a win together? Will it be a decisive victory, or will he weasel it again? And maybe the title changes hands after the predictions from the event where all the titles were defended. So we did talk about Clash of Champions last time, made our predictions. Well, it kind of went a bit weird, thanks to the general way of the world that is. A couple of the matches got called off because they were deemed medically ineligible or something. Didn't mention.
Was that the one where there's like a rumour of Shayna Baszler being pregnant? Did you hear that one somewhere? That was hilarious. I was like, no, probably not that one.
Honestly, just tell everybody realises that there's a pandemic going on. If COVID's kind of had its finger in that pie a little bit, then that was probably a bad choice of phrase after Matt's example.
Yeah, I mean.
But yeah, just to tell everybody, it's not a secret. It's happening, isn't it? So a couple of the matches got called off. Apparently there was a possible breakout among some NXT people, and everybody that was either rooming with or married to an NXT superstar was immediately pulled from the card. In the SmackDown Women's title match, Bayley and Nikki Cross was cancelled. Obviously Nikki Cross being married to Killian Dane of NXT. And then the women's tag team title match, that Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus the Riot Squad, was cancelled. So that immediately narrowed down the chances of extra points. And we had picked different people, especially in the women's title match as well. So we'll kind of ruin that a little bit.
I'm just going to pick Shayna Baszler's pregnant.
If you'd have picked that, I think we'd have just been handing you the title at the beginning of this episode. So what ended up being a possible 7, Andy decided to take my place in last this week. So it was a nice little bump up the rankings, but only by 1 for me.
This is a disgrace.
But with 6 out of a possible 7 in the end, he did actually score a decisive victory. So, Mr. Paul Williams, still your reigning, defending Cookie Cast getting over pay-per-view predictions champion. There it is. Oh, but you see, Andy's already stolen the goal. Oh man! Right. So yeah. So Paul, that's it now. Twice in a row. So if you win it the third time, you get to keep it, right?
That's what I'm told.
Oh man, the actual national law will decide otherwise. So, anybody remember Clash of Champions at this point? Anybody got any highlights they wanted to discuss? Because there was certainly a few on there. My particular highlight, as we all predicted before it started, was the ladder match for the Intercontinental title. Obviously, it is casting your minds back a few weeks now, but a few bits in that. For one, Jeff Hardy setting up a ladder. AJ Styles setting up a ladder. Jeff Hardy goes up the top, jumps towards AJ, whilst the ladder is in like a V shape with a point in the mat. And essentially, Venus flytraps himself with the ladder. See, I've seen a lot of stuff in wrestling, and a lot of stuff has made me think, "Oh my god!" But when that actually happened, I'm pretty sure a very strange noise came out of my throat because that looked rough.
How on earth he didn't end up with some form of like broken or bruised ribs? I've no idea.
I thought it was more likely that the little stanchion support thing would maybe like cut him across his middle because it was weird. It was very, very inventive. Not seen that before, so it was quite cool. But then I quite like the story of the match as well because Sami Zayn managed to sort of avoid most of the heavy hitting by hook or by crook, and then cracked out a couple of pairs of handcuffs to help him along his way to victory. One of which ended up through the hole in Jeff Hardy's ear. So that was, he'd obviously been watching the Big Dave Triple H match from WrestleMania 35 and thought, I know what we can do. But yeah, it was. Did enjoy that though. So yeah, anything else from that, or do we want to move on to what's gone on since?
I like that. I like the Sami Zayn kind of character kind of thing because I was worried that he was just going to be like, "Oh, you've been away, that's you done." We'll carry on with like a Hardy, AJ Styles kind of thing. But the fact that he's come back and is like even more kind of weaselly and conniving than before is great. But it's good that they're using him because it was one of them ones where you thought, the usual kind of marky, he's going to go to AEW, I'm so much better AEW, kind of thing. And actually he's doing good work at WWE and seems to be left to do his own thing, which seems to be quite good. So,
and it's not only that they've put the title on him, or again, if you like, he regained it at Clash of Champions, but they've actually used him on weekly television. They are kind of running with him and letting him do his thing. So I did wonder what would happen with the draft.
Is he still bringing both belts around as well?
No, he put Jeff Hardy, like Jeff Hardy's in the actual. They just put it in the bin. It's a bit of a throwback to Alundra Blaze days. He just put it in the bin, which obviously made me very sad because he could have just sent it to me if he'd really wanted to. I'd have quite happily put it with the collection. But yeah, so we briefly mentioned the draft there. This year's draft has just happened. Strange positioning because it's again the week before a pay-per-view where it was finalised, which means that there's not a lot of time really to kind of get any new rivalries going, and it's a bit of a difficult one because they've swapped quite a few people around, which we'll get to. But they'd booked in 3 matches before the draft happened, and usually there's some kind of shenanigans where like people get added or anything like that. But this year it felt a bit predictable that actually they couldn't change anybody around, and like the matches that they'd announced was the WWE title match, the Universal title match, and the SmackDown Women's Championship match. None of the people from those respective brands changed, so those matches remained kind of in place as expected, with no like connotation of somebody might win and take the title to the other show. They just kind of left it as it was. So they used that card on SmackDown this past week because they had. Now, follow this along. One of the biggest acquisitions in the draft, arguably for Raw, literally and figuratively, was Braun Strowman from SmackDown. So they have the draft on SmackDown to say that he's been drafted to Raw, for him then to wrestle Keith Lee on Raw, for him then to wrestle Roman Reigns for the Universal title again on SmackDown. So he was on SmackDown to draft to Raw, to wrestle on Raw, to then wrestle on SmackDown. But the draft happened and they were supposed to be made brand exclusive. What, like, it's almost like they just, like, they normally wait, give us the good grace of giving it at least a fortnight before they think, the viewers will forget about that. They didn't even last a week this time. They just let it go, but then Roman Reigns retained, no shocker there, keeping the Universal title on SmackDown, so I guess it's just a footnote now and it'll kind of be forgotten about, but it was very, very strange. With Braun going to Raw, you'd think SmackDown would get some decent names going the other way, right? None other, probably the biggest name, than Mr. Seth Rollins. So the Monday Night Messiah is no longer. Thoughts on that one?
It was one of the ones where you think, all right, that's a really good idea. It's a bit stale on Raw now, and the Monday Night Messiah thing's kind of thing, and maybe they could just leave like the Mysterio family thing alone. No, they've gone with him, so they're just going to do the same thing on SmackDown. So you're like, we'll just move Raw to SmackDown then, kind of thing, and that'll just carry on over there. So I was kind of like, I was excited. You were excited when it happened because you think, all right, yeah, fair enough, you can go and feud with. Probably like try to recreate some of the kind of NXT stuff that he did with some of the kind of wrestlers that are on SmackDown that are a bit more kind of high flyery kind of stuff, and then they just kind of regurgitate the same crap that they've been doing on Raw for 6 months.
I get the impression with this that because Dominic and Rey Mysterio were moved over as a tag team as well. But I get the impression with it that like they wanted to see out the story, but they also wanted Rollins on SmackDown for name value. So I think it was. I feel like it was like a casualty of that, if you like. But they have developed the story a little bit more this week in the sense of the teasing a possible Murphy turn. So it might end up being Dominic and Murphy as a tag team, which styles-wise would probably work pretty well. But they've also teased a Seth Rollins-Daniel Bryan feud. Yes, please. That will do nicely. If that is the best thing that we get out of the draft, I will be very, very happy. But from very, very happy, swiftly turned with a draft to very, very sad, for particularly for one member of the Getting Over podcast. How are you coping, Andy? Like,
hope you're sour.
Man.
What can we say? It's no longer a new day.
Well,
because the New Day were fired out of a cannon into the sun. Yay!
Is that what Raw's referred to now as? The sun?
Well, perhaps the saddest and most disturbing move of the draft, especially for Andy. The New Day is no longer a three-man team. Big E got kept on SmackDown, and Kofi and Xavier Woods have been moved to Monday Night Raw. They've also immediately taken up the mantle of Raw Tag Team Champions because the SmackDown Tag Team Champions got moved to Raw and the Raw Tag Team Champions got moved to SmackDown. Again, another strange manoeuvre. I wonder if they just did it it's the first time ever that anybody's ever swapped belts. Not too sure about that one, but I think.
Don't for starters think they won't try and work that in somewhere in like one of the broadcasts either.
Well, it's already happened because on this week's Raw, and this, I can't do 30 seconds on it, but this because it's just over and done. But this is absolutely a grumble from me. One of the lines in commentary, there was was it AJ Styles versus Matt Riddle, I believe. For the first time ever on this brand.
Oh
so
my god!
Not the first time. And then I can't remember if it was before or after in the running. They had Kofi and Woods against Sheamus. Oh no, it was Kofi just on his own with Woods on the outside against Sheamus. For the first time ever on this brand in 9 years.
What?
It was like, yeah, I mean, I know that some of the NFL guys have had like time off with like COVID games being postponed, but they were like, "Hey, stats boys, can we borrow you for a sec? We need some tenuous ones." But yeah, I was not a fan of that at all this past week. But yeah, there've been a couple of people seemingly left out of the draft. They made a real big deal this time about having like a proper like a pool that could be drafted on the first night of the draft and a pool that could be drafted on the second. And Andrade and Mickie James were both in those pools, but not drafted. There were other people that they've listed as undrafted, such as Becky Lynch. You'd expect that because she's off having a little one. Ronda Rousey, again, missing in action, but still was listed. The Undertaker, who knows what's going to happen with that. But obviously the biggest name on the list went undrafted, probably Bo Dallas, yeah? Anyway. I'm a little grumpy about the draft. I don't know if that's coming across at all.
It's just pointless. Like, Helen came in that yesterday, and I think we were watching. I can't think what me and Seb were watching. Either Raw or SmackDown or something. She went, "What are they having a fucking draft for?" And I was like, exactly. You know, in the space that someone who doesn't watch it, has no understanding of it whatsoever, walks through the door, doesn't say hello, doesn't say, "Oh, how's your day been?" They're having a draft. What are they having a fucking draft for? Exactly. Every wrestling fan in the world thought is summed up by a 39-year-old woman in Newcastle who never watches wrestling. Like, exactly. Spot on. Thank you.
But Matt, they'll just tell you that they're sending the same message across all demographics, and the message is quite clearly getting through.
Yeah. No one wants a fucking draft.
So yeah, I think the thing with the draft is that it only works if they then stick to the exclusivity thing, because then after that, the next time it happens, people are then genuinely interested to see what fresh matchups they're going to get. Whereas now, like, you know that like Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns are on different shows, but they're probably going to be fighting again in a few weeks' time at Survivor Series for whatever reason. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that chances are that won't happen, but I suppose WWE.
But they always managed to find a way of fucking it up, because what was it last time? They had the wild card, and then instead of it was like, "Oh, we've got one wild card per show." Then it's like, "Well, we've got a wild card for the men and a wild card for the women." Oh, all right, then. And then a wild card for the tag team as well. And you're like, "All right, then we've got one for Uncle Tom Cobley as well," kind of thing. Just got a box full of wild cards. Yeah, do you want them? Yeah, and it's just like, you got to. If you're gonna do it, you kind of got to go. And I suppose I don't know whether it's TV, like the broadcasting partners, or look at me again, all corporate and all that, dictating that they don't want this kind of like, that's on that channel and that's on this channel kind of thing. Perhaps they don't want that. They want the kind of opportunity to advertise different people, or have the flexibility of, "Oh, this person's really over, and that means they're going to turn on to our channel," but then just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just say any wrestler can be on any show at any time, and you might as well just do that for all the shows, and then that would make it way more exciting. And I think there's that element of like, I think that's what keeps NXT relatively fresh, is that it's not always the same people on every week, because they've got so many so many people in the brand that it might go a week or two where you don't see somebody, and then they'll come back and, oh, right, yeah, really good. It's good to see them. Whereas, perhaps if they had that across Raw and SmackDown, it'd be kind of thing. I know what happens is that they get stuck in the fact that Roman Reigns does every Raw and SmackDown, and Seth Rollins do every Raw and SmackDown, because they'll just condense it into the smaller amount. But it just seems it's just a pointless thing, and it's not even like Stephanie walks out and it's just there's not, I don't know, there's not enough of a, if you're going to make it a big deal and stick to it, then make it a big occasion. Otherwise, just don't bother. Just post it up on the network at some point. Draw it out of a hat like the FA Cup. It's just, it seems like it's a futile exercise, because, like you said, within a week they've gone, all the stuff that we wasted the past week or so doing. Fuck that, mate. It's done now. We'll just kind of start mixing it up again.
It wasn't just the fact that they'd done it that annoyed me. It was their justification of the commentary team then having to go, oh, they're just having one more go before they actually leave. Like,
oh shit, we forgot that we booked this match. So
that's the thing. They hadn't. There was no advertised matches. It was just like it was almost like they'd turned up for work on the Friday because they forgot they'd been moved to a Monday and thought, we'll have our money's worth here. They just like. It's not, man. Yeah, it was a little bit of a sore point for me. Like, I know that obviously, like, I'm an old man these days and kayfabe and all the rest of it, but at least try and stick by it. The people surely that come from the business will be the first to complain that like fans are too dismissive. Like we just have been for the last however long, but surely it's on them and on the company to try and keep it alive a little bit. I mean, especially even if just for the kids, do you know what I mean? Like, my lads are 5. They'd if you said that one's supposed to be on the blue show and that one's supposed to be on the red show, they'd be like, "Why's that happening?" And they're 5. Anyway, anybody got anything else from the last few weeks from Raw and SmackDown, or shall I move on? Take that and move on then. So, as Mr. Moore briefly touched on NXT, we'll just drop them a little mention as well, because coming to you next week it's not as a pay-per-view as such, because we've just been through Takeover, but they are resurrecting Halloween Havoc, so the old WCW licensing comes to their weekly show, so they're making a bit of a big deal of it, and they've got a few title matches and stuff, but the North American title has been defended by Damian Priest against Johnny Gargano, and his wife Candice LeRae is challenging for the NXT Women's title against Io Shirai. Although, because it's the Halloween Havoc gimmick, they're having a spin the wheel, make a deal. So, and if you're old enough to remember Raw Roulette back in the day, whenever they used to tour through Vegas, they are having a big spinny wheel to determine what the stipulations are for those matches. So it should make it a little more exciting. And obviously we should mention, well, we didn't mention the NXT title there because it's not been defended, because at TakeOver just gone, Finn Balor took a hell of a shot to the mouth. Anybody seen this?
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Seen the entrance raise.
Have you had a chance to watch the match?
I saw bits of it, but standard fare for me. Fell asleep watching it.
So, Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor. I enjoyed it as a match. I thought it was, for NXT and WWE particularly, it was a solid, hard-hitting match. Became apparent afterwards just actually how hard-hitting that was when Finn Balor has had his jaw fractured in 2 places and has had to have it wired. So they're not taking the title off him just yet. They are going to see how it heals. But, I mean, anybody ever had a broken jaw? Can't imagine that that's going to be a fun one to come back from.
No, I mean, what they said? They've said 6 weeks, haven't they? Realistically.
Yeah.
Automatically, that automatically means they have to take the title off him, because where they're going to invoke the 30-day automatic he has to defend the title clause bollocks that they usually come out with.
But that's only for the people they don't like Sami Zayn. Finn Balor, despite the fact not being the Demon King version of himself for the last however many months, probably still is one of the top merch sellers they've got. So I think that'll buy him a little more than the 30 days, the Cynic thing.
I mean, there's that element of it being a bit of a pass the parcel as well, because obviously it's gone like Adam Cole, Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, and then him obviously after Karrion Kross got injured, it then being passed over, Balor picking it up there. So it's kind of 4 champions in the space of what? It seems like 2 months.
Mm. It won't be that long. It'll be something like 6 weeks, won't it?
Historically, as well, the people who hold on to that title, with the exception of Adam Cole, probably, I don't know if there's some sort of voodoo nonsense around it, because what Ciampa was NXT champ when he got his neck done, wasn't he?
Yeah. To give it up as well.
If you're superstitious, you maybe be settling for the North American title roundabout now. So we shall move on. So as we mentioned, this weekend coming up. Oh, hang on.
Just whilst we're on titles, can I possibly have 30 seconds?
A full 30 seconds. This means, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Williams is gearing himself up to deliver the goods on a Ready to Grumble. Give that man his time.
Go.
So this isn't a new one, but it's come to my attention that the women's titles on Raw and SmackDown are white leather with a red and blue background. The Universal title is blue leather. The WWE title is black leather. Why? Why is it not black leather with a red back for Raw and a blue back for SmackDown?
Well, I suppose it did used to be red, didn't it? The Universal when it was on Raw.
Yeah, but then the WWE title was just black, and it wasn't. So the WWE title doesn't get changed no matter which brand it's on, whereas the Universal title does.
I think, my assumption, would probably go to the title guru thing. Well, I would say lineage, is it? I would say, the WWE title is a black, it's a black strap, and that's the kind of thing. The Universal title is a hokey kind of piece of crap that they never should have introduced.
Sit on the fence, Matt. I would.
So it doesn't matter what colour the strap is, because it got booed the living daylights out of it when they introduced it.
Well, even though people disliked it, though, it's the same as always, isn't it? If they just keep pushing it enough, and eventually people just give up. So much like the red cell that we're going to get this weekend. I think, just as the word on the title, I think Matt will be right, because they always mention the history of the WWE title. They say lineage of over 50 years and all the rest of it. So if anything, that's got to kind of be seen as the traditional one. Traditionally, you'd be looking at a black strap all day long, wouldn't you, really, with that? So, but yeah, I don't want them to change it to have a red plate behind it, because that means that I'd have to start changing things around, and please don't make me spend more money, because Sarah will kill me. Just put COVID on the death certificate, it'll be fine, no one will notice. So that then, if Mr. Williams has finished grumbling about his, and in fairness, it's a valid point. But
it just doesn't make any sense. It's if you're going to do that for the women's titles, why not just have an entire rebrand of the whole belts? They've done it pretty much anyway. We're taking out the new Intercontinental, the new US title. Why not just go the whole hog and just redo all of them and make them that sort of plain black or plain white strap, and the backing be relevant to the show they're on.
Mm. Yeah, although if they really want to move away from the white straps at some point, that would probably also be good, because just as a little aside, last November when we went to Manchester to meet Becky Lynch, Clang, she had the women's title with her at the time, and obviously you say it's a white strap, absolutely disgusting. It was like grey and it had stuff on it. Honestly, definitely doesn't. The white doesn't last. Anyway, that's a different story. So, this coming weekend, as we said, it is Hell in a Cell. It's going to be again live from the Amway Centre inside the Thunderdome. At the time of recording, they've only announced 4 matches, so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter predictions run tonight, gents. Again, as we've said, you can only really assume that the draft has kind of hindered this. Not really had much time to build stuff up. However, they have managed to pull one out with a throwback to a match that will now happen between Raw superstars from a story that started on SmackDown. Keeping up, right? So, Elias. Remember Elias? He is back. And he also, apparently, is going to drop an album next Monday. So there's going to be an actual concert allegedly on Raw, where instead of him getting interrupted left, right and centre, he is actually going to do some songs. He did manage a couple on Raw this week. Whilst he was definitely miming, it sounded like they've actually put some time and effort into producing some songs. But anyway, yeah, he's back. And he hasn't forgotten the reason why he was off TV for a while. I suppose, aside from the initial incident, it would probably be quite difficult to forget being hit by a car.
Or quite easy, depending how hard you were hit.
Whilst the true identity of the driver has never been fully revealed, it was always blamed on Jeff Hardy by Elias, because it was part of this ongoing Sheamus Jeff Hardy story at the time. So I guess as well, that does possibly open a door to the Irishman getting involved at some point within the match this coming Sunday. Elias is obviously looking to settle the score. Hardy's fighting to clear his name. It's not a cell match. It's not been announced as any kind of stipulation. Just a straight up wrestling match. Where do we think this one is going? Matt, do you want to kick us off this one?
I presume it's good. I'm going to go with Elias.
Okay.
Obviously, kind of coming back, kind of a score to settle of some kind. But yeah, there'll probably be some kind of shenanigans kind of thing. If what's his face, Sheamus gets involved or something like that. But I'm going to go with Elias.
Okay. Andy?
I'm going to use a prediction that I think I can actually say it. For the first time ever, I might be able to use a prediction. I'm going to use a Paul Williams classic.
She's not even in this match.
DQ. There's going to be no result, and Matt is absolutely on the money with this one. Shanahanigans all over the place.
All right, I've got you down as a no result. Paul?
They might even drop a car on the ring. Who knows? You heard it here first time ever.
That is true.
Be like, remember this?
I'm same as Matt on this one. If he's just come back, doesn't really make an awful lot of sense to give him a loss straight out of the gates and stuff like that. So yeah, step me down for a Elias victory, please.
Okay, that's Andy playing for a point then on this one, because I've also picked Elias. Because I don't know, I think they could have given it to Hardy, but I think because they've made this fuss about this album and actually been able to, I don't know, I think they'll want the promotion out of it. So I'm also going for Elias as well. Maybe they've led us all down the wrong path. We'll find out on Sunday. So one that I did want to talk about is the SmackDown Women's title match. This is currently slated and we'll get to the reasons why I've said that in a second, as a Hell in a Cell match. So the once best friends are now on opposite sides of the battle as Sasha Banks is looking to end Bayley's historic title run. By Sunday, Bayley will have held the title for over 370 days. After the bit of a heel turn from Bayley, Sasha did get a little bit of payback at the second attempt with a steel chair attack of her own. But Bayley still hasn't officially signed the contract for the match. It's already been advertised for the SmackDown in between recording and when Hell in a Cell goes out that she's going to get Bayley to sign that contract by one way or another. But they've already got, and which we'll get to obviously in a second, they've already got another 2 Hell in a Cell matches on the card. So I am in absolute no doubt that the title match will happen. But I just get the feeling that they're going to switch the stipulation because of this contract thing, and because do we really need 3 Hell in a Cell matches in one night when we used to only get one every year, really? So I haven't actually written this down, but just off the cuff, we could predict a winner, and just because there are so few other predictions this time, we could also then say yes if it'll be a Hell in a Cell, or no if you think it'll change. They have made a real big fuss about Bayley and the amount of days, again, that's been going on for the last couple of weeks. Every time she's hitting an entrance ramp, the word historic is shortly mentioned thereafter. I'm picking Sasha purely for that reason. So that is me down for a Sasha Banks win, and I don't think it'll be a Hell in a Cell. So I am going no cell. Bit like a Ridge Holland match, that, isn't it, Matt? No cell. Do you want to take the next one, Matt?
Yeah, I'm same as you. Sasha Banks, not a Hell in a Cell. Loser leaves SmackDown. Stipulation to further fuck over the draft.
It's when they listen to this podcast and they'll be like, Helen was right all along. Andy?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
So you're going Sasha?
No cell. But if there was 3 Hell in the Cell matches, would that be first time ever? Because that might sway my decision.
He's onto something there. It will be. I don't think there's ever been 3 in one night before.
Actually, yeah, go on. Put me down for first time ever.
Okay, for the 3P. Okay, so as
in the game there, shown by Paul. Oh, God damn it!
As with the football podcast, can't see the fresh for the teas. Again, bit of cross promotion. Go and listen to that one too. Paul, seeing as it's your essentially home game last, because how much you love Bayley, that's why we'll let you pick this one last. So I'm assuming the words are about to be issued.
No, because every time I say that, it always bites me in the ass. And this is the one occasion where I don't see how they can't take it off her. Just because of the way that the storyline has been built, like you can't have her almost kill somebody, break her neck, whatever it was that she did to her, and then just have her come back and then just go, "Nah, we just thought we'd keep it on her for another 150 days, if that's all right." I also think that the way it's been set up, there's enough bad blood there for them to warrant it being held in Hell in a Cell. So I'll go with it will be inside the cell.
Okay.
And Sasha will take the belt.
Okie dokie. That is in the book. So we have also got, speaking of bad blood, bit of family-based bad blood. Again, in a Universal title match. It is going to be inside Hell in a Cell, but Andy, just for you, for the first time ever, it's an I Quit match inside Hell in a Cell. By the time we've seen 3, we might also be saying the same words. In recent weeks, since Clash of Champions, Roman Reigns has made it apparent that he wants to now be known as the Tribal Chief, and he will stop at absolutely nothing to demand this, including smashing his own family with a chair. So, and inside Hell in a Cell, and then raising the stakes by making it this I Quit match. They keep saying the stakes have been raised. I'm not really sure what's going to happen when, you know, the words are issued. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of connotations of having to, like, be disbanded from the family, or even conversely join up as a team, or whatever. They've not really kind of elaborated on that. They just keep saying it's the highest stakes match. That's okay, fine. Was anybody gonna really pick Jey Uso at all? No. No. Me neither. Maybe we should put a time on this just for some points. That's all I'm trying to think of it, so we don't all end up with the same score. Do you want to go with that?
How long does it take for him to quit?
Yeah, so you could we'll do it in banding. So if you think it's going to be less than 10 minutes, between 10 and 20 minutes, or then over 20 minutes, maybe. What do you think? Or less than 15 to 30, or over 30 might be more apt for a Hell in a Cell, maybe.
I was going to ask for, can we add over 30 into that? So, because I think they'll try it, make it go kind of quite a while for a quick match and the stakes.
Okay, I've got you down then for over 30 minutes. I am going to go for between 15 and 30. I don't know. They didn't quite get the exact squash match last time, so I don't know if has there ever really been much of a Hell in a Cell squash match. Probably, because there's been a few over time, but if it's not coming to my mind now, chances are they might pull that card to the front of the deck again this time. So I'm going to go 15 to 30. Paul?
So my internet connection was a bit sketchy then, so I only caught the last bit of what you said. So we're going for length of match, yeah?
Just for this one, yeah. Just so we've got an extra point to play for.
Yeah, I'll also go in the 15 to 30 bracket.
Okay.
I don't know with this one, because is there going to be some sort of like they've done it before, haven't they, with a recording of someone saying "I quit" when it was Mankind versus The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Can they do something like similar to that? I don't know.
You're thinking a bit of twin magic.
Jimmy Uso got involved in the last match, didn't he, through the helmet?
Mm-hmm.
I know we said last time that is he still recovering from knee surgery, so he's got a knee brace on or something like that.
Yeah, it was hopping mad last time.
Because it just makes me wonder, like, if he's at the point where he would be able to sort of do at least some sort of like interference in the match. Could the roll up the whole sort of like Jay goes out of the ring on one side, and you know it just so happens that Jimmy pops up and comes into the ring and gets trapped in like a STF or some sort of like submission hold, and then he says "I quit," but then obviously he just comes back, and then Jay comes back into the ring, and then obviously the ref just has to throw it out as like a bit of a no contest. So in the interest of playing for points, stick me down for some form of no contest.
Wow. Okay. And Andy, are you after Paul's deliberating? Are you happy to stay with your pick for Roman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Times
wise, what are we?
I'm just literally creeping over 30 minutes.
Okay, so you're over 30 minutes as well. So the last advertised match so far is the third of the aforementioned Hell in a Cell, and in what we would probably expect to be like the blow-off match in the rivalry that's carried us all the way through summer. Drew McIntyre defends the WWE Championship against Randy Orton inside the red structure. Orton's past came back to haunt him at Clash of Champions, so they had basically every legend that he's wronged in the last 8 months give him a good kick in at some point. Shawn Michaels switching music off the top of an ambulance, Christian dusting him up in the catering area, even Ric Flair driving the ambulance off at the end of the match. It was all tied together quite nicely. But Hell in a Cell now does seem like the logical step to sort of stop all the interference, and one of the lines that's been delivered over the last couple of weeks was that at Clash of Champions all of the damage that Drew did was for those people that Randy Orton had done wrong to, whereas this time all the damage he's going to do is purely for him. So they've made it again like super personal and stuff, but can the Scotsman hold on? Do we think he's going to be champion? Oh, Paul's still there, Paul.
I am now.
Will Drew McIntyre hold on to the gold after this weekend? What do we think, boys?
I reckon this would be a perfect time for him to debut a brand new black leather with red backing WWE Championship for the new WWE Champion Randy Keith Orton.
Okay. You're not getting a bonus point if they do wheel that out, by the way. That just means
the text of incredible annoyance from you.
It just means that you've been on WWE Shop today when I haven't, and you've already seen some. So, okay, you're in the book for Randy Orton. Andy?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm almost offended that you've asked me this. If you haven't already written down Randall Keith in that book, I am offended.
It's there. It's definitely there.
Wonderful.
Matt? Again, I'm guessing a similar tone of...
It's... I don't know. You know, the heart always says Randy, but the head this time is like...
Oui.
But it's I don't know. It's so many times I've been hurt. So many times by Randy.
You me both, Matt. You me both.
And then it seems like I'm like, oh, this time, surely, after making McIntyre look so kind of strong, like over the past, however many, like doing all these kind of things through the pay-per-views, you kind of think, oh, well, it seems a shame for him to lose it in the Hell in a Cell as the kind of final payoff to kind of end the rivalry. But then, no, Drew McIntyre. I'm going to go Drew McIntyre.
Wow, that is a shock pick of the podcast, I think. They have drawn a lot of attention to the fact that Orton's very experienced inside the cell, and Drew McIntyre has never been in one. So they have. It was a really weird ending to Raw this week, whereby Orton delivered a bit of a sermon inside the cell. Drew came down with his bolt cutters and let himself in, and just as he shut the door behind him, went off the air. He's like, "Gonna smash your face?" No, I'm just gonna close the door. It was a bit of an odd one, but I am going heart over head this time, in the sense of I really want Drew to win, so I'm just putting Drew in the book. Whether I think he will, maybe I'm doing myself out of points. I'm not sure. I think, where does Orton? If Orton loses, though, where does he go? What would be next for Randy Orton?
I mean, they keep on teasing the NXT thing, don't they?
suppose.
And
I think that was a bit heavily dependent on like when Adam Cole was champion and stuff as well. Obviously, like now that Finn's like injured, unless is that the answer to the question? Do they strip him and drop Orton straight in there? That would piss a lot of people off.
That would be, the marks would go mad. Oh no, what the fuck him? Sending him down to NXT to take over the title. It'd be like Charlotte Flair on steroids. I'd love it. I'd sit there and bask in the heat. just on Twitter. Oh, refresh. Oh, look at that. Nuts.
Oh, Helen will be hooking the house electrics up to you if they're just for powering the house for free. Like. So as we said, there were only 4 matches announced at the time of recording, so those are the predictions we've got. So thank you very much for those, gentlemen. They are all in the book. Has anybody got any other business from the world of wrestling for the last 6 weeks or so?
The other thing I saw was, and it's quite kind of obviously Blazer heel, but everyone's favourite former head teacher is apparently back on NXT UK tonight after 36 weeks out, which is quite good to see because he's quite possibly the unluckiest man in wrestling, Eddie Dennis. But a fucking good wrestler, so.
Are they actually going to push this Demon Headmaster gimmick? Because it was very... for a second when I first saw that promo starting, I was like, hang on a minute. Am I at primary school and is it about 20 to 4? Like, it was a bit full on. It's like, the only bit missing was like when he touched his glasses was we didn't get like the little spirally bits in the lenses. But no, I am
waiting for it because it's like the most WWE thing that they could possibly do. It's like some Demon Headmaster shit.
How have you had a chance to see much of NXT UK since it started back?
No, I haven't. I must admit, I'm a kind of confession. I haven't watched much wrestling for the past month. To be honest, I've been kind of.
I found it. I was pleased it was back, and I thought NXT and like obviously like the main roster have done pretty well without a crowd to just keep going. I don't know if it's because it's not been on for so long and you're kind of having to get used to the characters again, but I found it a bit tough sledding, to be honest. It just felt a bit like the studio looks nice and fancy and all the rest of it, but just felt a little flat.
I think they were already. I don't know. I found it tough sledding anyway, and I think maybe I was expecting WWE Indie Wrestling UK kind of thing, and it kind of went WWE UK kind of WWE style.
Mm.
And some of the booking's been a bit weird, and it's a bit disjointed, and I don't know, they keep on burying really good wrestlers for the sake of some not so good wrestlers that they're trying to build.
They're safe now. They're safe now. He's safely tucked up in a bed, in a hospital bed in America.
Can you imagine? Oh, Ridge. Oh, we got some really good news, guys. You got really good news for Ridge. Luke. He's been sent over. He's been called up to NXT, and everyone's like, "Fucking hell, thank fuck for that." The fact that Johnson won one more time, and it was just like I don't know. I think. Do I want to see a typical UK indie wrestling show? No, but do I want to see over the top big lads wrestling? I don't want to watch that either because I don't think the skill set for the good wrestlers that they've got in the UK scene it suits that, and it's kind of seemed to have got bogged down in. Putting and I don't know. I'm not the biggest Walter fan either. I just found his whole gimmick overrated. And kind of when they started NXT UK, I didn't expect it to be an exclusively UK brand, like performers. When I expected it to be a little bit more like not high flight, but I just expected it to be a bit more exciting. And I don't know, the Walter thing's just not really done it for me.
I don't want to like do them down entirely, so I don't want to end it completely on a negative for them, because the bits that I will say is that they've at least tried to do something different in the last few weeks. Like it's NXT UK. People from the wider world seem to have this thing about the European style, so they've done this Heritage Cup. So they've done like rounds rules, like it used to be. Like if your mum or your dad or your gran or whatever ever used to watch it back in the day, it was always in rounds. So they've done a tournament in that style, and I thought that was like a nice little nod, and it was a bit more interesting, like you say, because it has just been WWE with the UK wrestlers. It hasn't really felt that different. Well, that has made it a little bit different in the last couple of weeks. So that's been all right, and it hasn't just necessarily been because Walter obviously is clear of that with him being the champion. The other positive that I'll say is that any time you get to have more Ilya Dragunov on TV,
yeah,
absolutely fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. So I'm pleased that he's getting.
I'm dreading the moment that they call him up to NXT, because it's going to happen soon. Because Christ, he's good. You know, and it's been difficult because they're trying to build the brand, and it's only really been going properly a year to 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously you take 6 months of that out with the COVID stuff, so you can't carry on building people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, you know, with the new setup, they can start to get things like properly running and stuff. And even like with Pete Dunne, obviously not being able to go over and wrestle in NXT, that can kind of raise its profile a little bit as well, because you kind of start to worry about it a little bit and kind of where it was trudging along to and that kind of thing. So yeah, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I probably not got back on the greatest start when it first came back, but hopefully they'll carry on making them improvements, and so just like giving like people like Pete Dunne and people like Dragunov the weight of that company, that arm of the company, to carry it, because people will watch it, at least if they're on. So
Definitely.
Right, well, I think that is about us. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for listening, watching on YouTube, whichever you've got up to. Much appreciated. As always, feel free to send us your predictions. There still are prizes, places to join us for grabs if you want to get involved. Send us a little message on the Twitter, on the YouTubes, or on the Facebook, or from cookiecast.com. All right.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much for joining us, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Another pay-per-view coming your way, and you've got all the information you need now to make the right choice, the right prediction for the right matches. Why don't you send them in to us? Drop us a line. You can go to cookiecast.com to get the details. You can send us it any way you want. Social media, email, sticker, post-it note on your screen, any of that. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you're not subscribing, it's just a little click of a button. It's not very, difficult. It's not intrusive, and it does help us out a lot. So yeah. Big thanks to everybody that joined me today, Stu, Matt and Paul. And until next time, I'm going to say bye. I'll see you then. Bye.